All right, this is our set of notes on indirect object pronouns. And before we really get into the indirect object pronouns, I want to bring back a set of pronouns that we learned back in Spanish 1A. And those pronouns are these guys. You should remember these pronouns fairly well. I didn't have time to put the accent marks over the U here, over the E. Aside from that, you've seen these words. Now, these are not indirect object pronouns. We call these subject pronouns. These words are called subject pronouns because they are names for the people who do actions. For example, if you want to say I swim or I want or I give or I practice, you're going to use yo, which is our Spanish word for I. If I say we go out after school or we study, nosotros is the word for we, and we are the ones doing the action. Now, just in case you forgot what these words mean, there are their wonderful definitions. We have I, you, blah, 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 okay? So these are our subject pronouns. These are the words that we use to say who is doing the action. Well, there's a problem that arises because you're not always going to talk about the person doing the action. For example, what if I was lucky enough to have friends with an extra concert ticket, and they give me a call and say that they want the ticket to go to me. Well, I can't use this word I anymore in a sentence like that. I can't say my friends gave I a concert ticket. Totally sounds wrong. What word do we choose in English? Instead of I, I'm going to use a different pronoun. I'm going to use the pronoun me. Now, just like I couldn't say, yeah, my friends gave I a ticket to the Reds game, we really can't use the Spanish word for I here either. So when we talk about the recipient of something, we're using indirect object pronouns. Now, indirect object pronouns can be used in several different ways, but for kind of where we are in this chapter, we're thinking about indirect object pronouns or indirect object being the noun that receives something. For example, the indirect object usually answers the question, for whom? For whom is that gift? For whom, are you buying those flowers? That's the indirect object. There are other uses too, but for our shopping chapter, that's how we're going to use them, is with gifts. Now, just like before, I can't say I if I am receiving a gift. I have to say the gift is for me. We can't use yo in Spanish. We have to use a Spanish word for me. So let's look at what our indirect object pronouns are. The word for me in Spanish, here's a tough one for you, is me. How about that? The word for you, if I'm giving you money or giving you a present, is te. And then our last word is going to be le. And notice that le is not the word for he or she. He or she would be the person doing the action. But the person receiving an action, I'd say, oh, this test is for him. Or this backpack you need to give to her. No? So we have me for me, te if you are receiving something, and le if him or her is the recipient. Okay? Now, that's not all. We have a few more. See if you can guess them. We have up here the word nos, which I'm going to uncover in a minute. Nos is not our word for we, because if a gift is going to we, you wouldn't say the word we. What would you say? The gift is for, where is it? There we go, us. So we have the word nos. The next indirect object pronoun that we're going to use is os. I forgot to mark it, but can you guess? That's a special one here. We'll give it a little star. Why is O special? You know why. It's only used in Spain. And then our last indirect object pronoun in Spanish is les. And les is going to take the place of them. If I gave them candy, I would say les. Okay? These are our 6 indirect object pronouns that we will use in Spanish. Now, you might notice that they look a little familiar. If you really look at these words, these, my friends, are the same words we put in front of gusta, which might make, you'll have some connections with that in Spanish too. These are the same words that go in front of gusta. Remember, me gusta, te gusta, le gusta. So we're using them here to discuss the recipient of a gift. Gift is for me, I'm going to give a gift to you, etc. Okay? So, here's the dilemma. Now I know what these 6 little words are. Where am I going to place them in a sentence that I construct in Spanish? So let's look at some examples. Here's a great example. What a nice thing to do. I want to give her flowers. Huh. Well, okay, we don't know where we would put the word for her, but I know how to say I want. And if you look in your vocabulary, you'll see the word for to give, and you'll also see the word for flowers. So we can at least construct those parts of the sentence. Let's see. I magically put the words down here already. I want starts with a Q. Ooh, I bet you remember it. We learned it in chapter 7. There it is. I want is quiero. Quiero says I want. Now in your vocabulary, you'll see the word to give is dar. And then flowers is a really pretty word in Spanish, flores. Las flores. Very nice. So we have I want, quiero, to give, dar, and flores, flowers, las flores. Okay? So, where am I going to place this word for her? First of all, what word for her am I going to select? If we go back a slide, there it is. The word for her is going to be le. So I can kind of hand write that in as best as I can. My great handwriting there. L-E. Forgive the handwriting. It's going to be my word for her. Here's the neat thing. I have 2 choices where I can place that word. I can place le in the more comfortable feeling spot for an English speaker. Come on, le. Oh, geez. I can place le here after dar. I'd say that feels the most comfortable for us because check it out. It matches how we say it. I want, quiero, to give, dar, her. Le. Quiero darle. I want to give her. I can hook this on the end of this unconjugated verb here. But check it out. There's another trick I can do. I can also place le, if the smartboard will let me, directly in front, directly in front of the word quiero, my conjugated verb in this sentence. Let's write this down in our notes. Let's see. Here's one way, and you know what? You can always count on doing it this way. Here's our sentence. I want to give her flowers. Here's my example where I have that le just wonderfully placed in front of my conjugated verb. You can always count on that because you know what? It's not a sentence unless it has a conjugated verb in it. So you're always going to have a conjugated verb. So there's my wonderful quiero. It can smash itself directly in front, and we'll jot that down. You might need to press pause. Option 1, because we have our two choices where you can put it. So 2 options. Option 1 is to place the indirect object pronoun directly in front of the conjugated verb. You can pause that if you need to. Option 2 feels more comfortable to us English speakers. Option 2 is to place the indirect object pronoun after the infinitive. For example, in this case, dar is the infinitive, unconjugated verb. Now, not every sentence you're going to have in Spanish will have a second verb in it that is unconjugated. But we're going to have a lot of them in this chapter, and here's a great example right here. And shoot, if that example is available to you, take it, right? So we have an unconjugated verb here in which we can use option 2. Option 2 states if there is an infinitive, also known as an unconjugated verb, hook the indirect object pronoun onto the end of the infinitive, making one word darle. No? So you can pause that if you want to write this rule down. Okay? Hey, let's do another one. Another example sentence. I can't think of anything much better than this. My grandparents want to give me money. So think about how we say grandparents, which you should remember from chapter 6, and then want. Well, we just used a form of the verb for wanting, so what's the other, how would you conjugate want to express my grandparents want? And then to give, we just used. And do you remember how to say money? Dinero. Dinero. So press pause and see if you can put this sentence into Espanol. And see if you can do it both ways, placing the indirect object pronoun in front of the conjugated verb, and also see if you can do it placing the indirect object pronoun hooked to the end of the infinitive. And after you pause it and work through the sentences, I'll show you the answers. Let's look. Here's the first way you can do it. My grandparents is mis abuelos, and we're going to conjugate the verb for wanting, quieren. Here was the first way to do it. Oh, stop. Come on. This blasted thing. All right, there's both the ways to do it. There you go. I can't make it stop going. Come on. There we go. All right, so here's the first way to do it. Mis abuelos, and we put the me in front of quieren. Quieren is my conjugated verb. The second option, mis abuelos quieren darme. They want to give me. Either way you choose does not affect the meaning at all. Just two separate ways to express it in Spanish. Doesn't change the meaning at all. So we have these two different options, I call them. You can always count on a conjugated verb, because without a conjugated verb, you really don't have a sentence. Sometimes there is a second verb that is unconjugated, and if that ever happens, you can use option 2, hooking the indirect object pronoun to the end. Okay? So what you want to make sure you have in your notes about indirect object pronouns is this. You want to make sure, let's see if this thing works this time for me. This little shade thing. Let's see. You want to have your indirect object pronouns in Español y en inglés, in Spanish and in English. There we go. Okay. And you also want to have your two options written down for where we can place these pronouns in a sentence. Option 1, you can always count on, and option 2, only when you happen to have an infinitive or unconjugated verb, in a sense, a second verb, basically. Okay? In your notes, you want to have these pronouns, you want to have these two options, and you know what else? You want to have those example sentences. I did 2 of them. So if you rewind this, you'll see those example sentences. You need to have those as well. All right, thanks for watching, and we're going to start digging into this in class. I can't wait. Later.